now that we've designed our VR room inside of Unity using some basic 3D objects, you can see we have some arcade games, we have our door that gets us inside of our room, we have some text, arcade, and we have our school. Here's another arcade we made, we have some posters on the wall. Then we have our game right here, which is our whack-a-mole. It's time to start coding. Coding can be very intimidating, especially textual-based coding to start. That's why most people start with block-based coding for students, like MIT App Inventor or even Scratch, to kind of not have to worry about the typing and maybe typing something wrong where blocks will work. But we're going to use C# in this instance. Don't worry, we're going to walk you through everything. First, start off very simple. See this whack-a-mole 00? That's our timer text. If we go back into our room, we have this thing called game text, and you can see timer text when I select it. It's that whack-a-mole 0.0. Well, 0.0 is because it's going to be our timer. We're going to have 30 seconds in our game, and we want this to count down. So to do that, we're going to have to program that. Go ahead and close this back, and let's go ahead and start. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make an empty object, and instead of calling it game object, this is going to control our game, so let's call it game controller. Now, in order to add a script that we want to code, I'm going to go to add component. I'm going to call it the exact same thing, game controller. See here, it says it doesn't find it, so I'm going to click on new script. And I want to call the new script game controller. Yep. And I'm going to do create and add. So now you can see the game controller object right here. I added a game controller script. If you notice down here, you would see the script as well. Let's go ahead and clean up some of this. Put all of my materials inside of there. These posters are also materials for their coloring those. But if you look, when I first made the prefab, I did it like that, but I added some more stuff. I'm going to do apply, and then you can see it shows up correctly. So I knew I made changes to my mole in the previous video, but then showing up here is because I did not do apply. And then apply can also, for example, if I wanted this mole to be a little bit taller, like that, and let's just say I wanted to stretch them out some, make them look like that, then I wouldn't want to have to do that to all of these other moles. But because they're prefabs, we simply click on apply. You can see all of them got taller. And there you go. So there's all our moles. And I showed you how to use apply. And we're going to switch these around in a second, but for now let's get to what we wanted to do in this video, coding this. Alright, so here's our game controller. This is the basic script that you can see, system, collections, generic, Unity engine. Every time you create a script, it's going to use this. Don't worry about the details of it right now, just think about this is the standard anytime you make a script. Here's the talking about classes. Remember, we called our script game controller, so you have public class game controller. It's a mono behavior. Mono behavior has to deal with Unity. Don't worry about the specifics of it right now. Also, you can see it has a start function or procedure in there. It also has an update procedure or function in there. This is pretty much the basic template. Anytime you make a script, it's going to have this, and you're going to update where you need. You'll add variables in. Don't worry about variables. We'll do that shortly. Start is when the scene first opens up. This happens, think about it as every second, like a timeline. So whatever I put in here will update every second, which is exactly what we're going to do for this. We want this to change every second to go down from 30 seconds to 0. So how do we do that? We'll go ahead and open it. I can double click on this, or from the inspector with my game controller, I can click here and click edit script. So either here or by double clicking, You see it's going to open up Visual Studio for me because I have it installed, or it could open up the default editor for Unity if you don't have Visual Studio actually open. So here we go. And as again you can see, this is a standard, this is a standard. So very, very simple. Let's work with updating this timer. What we're going to need is a reference to this inside of Unity. So to do that, back over here, we're going to make a variable. I'm going to call this timer variables. As a quick note, whenever you do 2 slashes, that's considered a comment. It doesn't compile this, it's just a note to yourself. It's a really good habit to start commenting all your code. If you go into programming, they're going to make you comment your code. So the first timer variable I want is a reference to that text. Well, I'm going to do public, which means I can access it from anywhere, which in our environment means in Unity. Public, I'm going to do text mesh timer text, and I'm going to end it with a semicolon. Everything in C# you're going to see ends with a semicolon. So for that, I'm just going to go ahead and save it. I'll come back over here and click on my game controller, and you should see my inspector is going to update, and it's going to show timer text. It's looking for a text mesh. This allows me to drag in this whack-a-mole 00 to here, and then now I have an instance that I can update. So let's go back to our room. Let's scroll down. Remember I called it timer text. So make sure game controller is highlighted. That way you can see this timer text. I'm simply going to drag timer text and drop it in here. That's the way I'm able to reference this inside of my code, passing this Unity game object, which is just 3D text, into this. So now that I have that, I can actually change anything. So let's just do a very simple example. So when this starts, if I wanted to update my text, and I'll put example here, update text to say hello. So what we would do, this is our variable called timer text. So I want to say timer text dot, what do I want to change? Do I want to change the color? Do I want to change the picture? No, I actually want to change the text. I'm going to say equals to quotations, and again you have to end it with a semicolon. So I'm going to say hello. I'll save that. Now if I come back here, wait a minute, it's not saying hello. Well, if we play it, oh, we're facing the wrong way. So we have to look at our camera. Camera's facing that way. I want my camera to be the opposite way, so I'm going to rotate it 180. There we go. Bring them back a little bit. Bring them up. Alright, so now, let's play. Remember it says whack-a-mole? Well look, it says hello. That's as easy as it is to update the text. But we don't want it to say hello, we want it to actually say whack-a-mole and go from 30 down to 0. So to do that, let's go ahead back. Again, let's get rid of that. You need to keep track of 30 seconds. And then update that constantly. So we're going to need another variable. So here, I'm going to make it public. That way, when I'm playing the game, I might want to make it longer than 30 seconds. Do public float, and I'm going to call it game timer. I'm going to say equals to 30f, and 30f for float. I'm just going to put a comment next to this. This is 30 seconds for the game timer. I'll come up here, let's put a comment for this as well. Reference to our Unity text. So now, we have a game timer. We have text. How do we update it? We're going to do it every second, so we're going to do it inside of update. We'll put a comment, update the game timer. So to do that, I'm going to say game timer minus equals, I'm going to say time dot delta time. And this in essence subtracts 1 second from game timer. So that updates it. So now update the text in Unity. We did that before. I'm going to say timer text dot text is equal to, I'm going to say whack a mole colon, do a plus, and I'm going to say game timer. I'll put a semicolon. So go ahead and save that, and let's see what happens when we run. So look at there. Very simple to update. But the only issue is we don't want these milliseconds. We don't care about that. We have another issue. If we let this run all the way down, we're going to get negative seconds. So we have two things to fix, and then we'll wrap up this video. This is your intro to kind of coding some very simple C#. So we saw it working, but we're going to get rid of the milliseconds. So again, don't worry about what I'm typing here, just follow along as you're learning coding. We're going to say mathf.floor, which is we're going to round, and I'm going to put, I want to round that. So let's save that and press play. So now you can see it rounded 27, 28, 26. We still have the problem when we get down here. It goes to negative numbers, which we shouldn't have. So let's fix that, and we'll wrap up this video. So we want to make sure that game timer never gets under 0, and we'll update that. So that's going to be a conditional statement. Every single programming language, Python, Swift, Java, C#, everything has conditionals. It's how computers make decisions. It's normally if something, and then you'll do something, or else if something else. Very simple. So we update the text, but we only want to update. First we want to do is we want to check the timer, the game timer, is greater than 0 seconds, because it just makes sense. So how does that look in code? We say if, and we put whatever we want to check for inside of here. So what we're checking is if the game timer is greater than 0, and since it's a float, 0f. So in essence, check if game timer is greater than 0 seconds. That happens. If that is true, we want to do this. We want to update that. Or else, that means it's negative down here. Let's say game less than 0 seconds. I'm going to say else. And we'll handle that later on. You might say game over, something like that. Let's just go ahead and check that when we get down to 0, this goes down to 0. Down here, let's just say update text in Unity to game over. So same deal, I'm going to say timer text.text is equal to, and here I'm going to say game over. Now let's save it and let's test. What should happen is once it gets to 0, it should come down here because it's no longer greater than 0, and the timer text should now say game over. So let's test it and see what we got. 29, 28. Game over. And it's working. So that's your intro to coding. We've updated the timer. Go ahead to the next video and we'll start to get these guys moving and hiding.